António Guterres sparked anger at last night's UN Security Council meeting after claiming that humanitarian laws are being violated in Gaza. Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick joins us now. Lots to talk to you this morning about, Mr. Jenrick. Shall we start with that statement from the UN and the anger it's caused in Israel? Is it right what he said? Was it helpful? Let us know your thoughts.
Well, I think he was wrong because he implied that there was a justification for what happened in Israel 2 weeks ago. There isn't. This was a barbaric, murderous, terrorist attack by an evil organisation, Hamas, on innocent Israeli civilians. No one, whether deliberately or otherwise, should be implying that there was anything justificatory for that. So in that sense, I think he was wrong. I hope that wasn't what he meant, but if it is, he should retract that. We all should be helping and encouraging Israel at this time as they try to defend themselves, secure their borders, and above all, to bring the hostages home, some of whom, of course, are British citizens. That's the priority of the government.
So, as part of that, is the UK supporting Israel's call for him to resign?
Well, that's not for me to say, but I do think it's important that we are all very clear that there's no justification for what happened. There's no context that's relevant. What happened was an appalling act of evil, terrorism, and everyone should call that out.
Well, the strange thing about it, just before we leave this subject, is that it came from him. I mean, his actual words were, he spoke about the Palestinian people subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation, and he also said that those murders, those 1,400 murders by Hamas, obviously, didn't happen in a vacuum. Now, there'll be people watching this programme now who will agree with that, and there'll be those who violently disagree. But it's not exactly diplomatic, is it? It's not what you expect from the head of the UN.
No, and I think it's really important that all of us unite in our condemnation of Hamas and don't give any suggestion that they had good cause for acting in this way. Of course they didn't. Imagine if this had happened in the UK. We would be rightly, absolutely outraged, angry, devastated by it, and we'd want to see that justice was done and that those terrorists were brought to book. But what needs to happen now is for Israel, with the support of the international community, to surgically degrade and destroy Hamas. That is in the best interests of the Israelis, is in the best interests of the innocent civilians in Gaza, and frankly of the wider world as well, because a fundamentalist terrorist organisation like Hamas is a danger to all of us, including here in the UK.
You just used the term surgically, find and destroy Hamas. The problem is that the process that seems to be happening at the moment is leading to terrible suffering, loss of life, injury, starvation in some cases of the civilians in Palestine. So is there something new that will happen for them to surgically destroy Hamas that you understand can happen that isn't leading to this loss of life?
Well, firstly, we as the United Kingdom government are working very hard at the highest levels with international partners to get more humanitarian support into Gaza. We've seen some trucks go through the Rafah crossing, but very few, and we want more to happen in that regard to support innocent civilians in Gaza. With respect to the actions of Israel, they are working hard to abide by international law and to ensure that civilians are protected wherever possible. They're giving notice of their bombing campaigns. They've urged civilians to leave the northern quarter of Gaza. But of course, this is very difficult. It's very hard when Hamas have specifically and deliberately enmeshed themselves with the civilian population and with civilian infrastructure like hospitals. The key thing is for Hamas to be destroyed. That is the best way to build a better future for both Gazans and for Israelis.
All right. Well, look, just one more question on this before we come to matters closer to home. Your leader, your Prime Minister's first anniversary today. We'll talk about that in a second. But what do you think about the reports that President Biden is on the phone to Tel Aviv every day? He's making daily phone calls. And as part of that, he is saying unequivocally that Israel must not launch a ground invasion until the hostages have been released. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know if that's correct.
Would you agree with it, though? Is that the right strategy, not to go in until hostages are released?
We by supporting Israel strongly, we are able to give them friendly advice. But it's for Israel to decide how to protect itself and its people and to bring home the hostages. What we're doing with respect to British nationals who are being held captive is working with our partners, both in the immediate environs and further afield, like Qatar. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary have travelled throughout the region, trying to secure the release of British nationals, and the families of those individuals here in the UK who must be in complete despair should know that we're doing absolutely everything we can to get them home.